vastly at the moment Ireland's isotonically modulating, and if we're to forsake morphonuclear gaseous exchange, we could all alkanocally distillate our prognatids, causing miracidial convulsions, not just locally, but also in the ever-expanding pan-European epigynously palmated diffusion brackets. So just to clarify that for some of you, will you please welcome the CEO of IDA Ireland, and that is Martin Shanahan. Give him a huge round of applause because he's the first one on.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Barry, I think, for that kind introduction. I am delighted to be here this morning at the annual Sales Leader Summit. I think the work of IDA will be known to some of you in the room at least. I know some of you are employed by the client companies that we support. As CEO of IDA, my team and I have responsibility for selling Ireland as a location for foreign direct investment across the globe, and we are at our core a sales and marketing organisation. Like many in this room, we have annual and monthly targets that we have to meet. I'm a little worried this morning, actually, there's so many of you here, I don't know who's meeting those targets. Those targets are set out in our strategy, which runs from 2015 to 2019, and that strategies and those targets are agreed with government. They are extraordinarily ambitious targets by any stretch of the imagination. They are approximately 40% increase on the previous 5-year period. And I expect that all of you in this room know what ambitious targets look like and can relate to that too. In our case, it's not sales, revenue and profit, it is jobs, actually 80,000 new jobs over a 5-year period, 900 investments. We have targets in relation to research and development expenditure, 3 billion over that period. And for the first time in this strategy, we have ambitious investment targets for each region of the country, and in fact a 30 to 40% increase in investments for each region outside of Dublin, while maintaining the high level of investment that has been a feature of Dublin for the last number of years. Those targets are particularly ambitious given the hyper-competitive FDI environment where all investments and all new mandates are hard-won. And we now see all countries, large and small, vying for investment. 3 years into our strategy, we have already surpassed the 5-year employment target, which was set at 209,000. FDI, direct investment in this country, is now at an all-time high. It's over 210,000, representing 10% of the direct labour force in this country, and obviously multinationals have a far greater impact on the labour force than just that, as many spin out and knock-on jobs. IDA supported companies account for 70% of all exports from this country, and for 80% of the corporate tax take in Ireland. 2017 was the third year of record growth from a foreign direct investment perspective. Last year there were 237 discrete investments into this country, and 111 of those went to regional locations. They resulted in just under 19,000 jobs growth, but obviously there's always churn within the labour market, and that left us with a net increase in the portfolio of 11,000 jobs last year. That positive performance, I'm glad to say, has continued into 2018 with significant investments made since the beginning of the year. Yesterday morning I was in Longford at an investment announcement by an Indian company, Red Seal Cups. It was my second time in Longford in 2 weeks. It hasn't always been so, I can assure you. we had Aptiv announcing 2 weeks ago that it had moved its global HQ from London to Dublin, with a huge balance sheet and significant jobs associated with it. On the 1st of May, Chinese manufacturer Wuxi Biologics announced that they were going to locate their first ever manufacturing plant outside of China, and they were going to locate it in Dundalk. Wuxi's plant will be the largest facility in the world using single-use bioreactors, an investment of 325 million and over 400 jobs over a 5-year period. And these are just some examples of the types of investments that we've seen over the last number of months. And as a result of all of this, Ireland is home to 9 of the top 10 global software companies, the top 10 born on the internet companies, 9 of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the world, 17 of the top 25 medical devices companies, and 50% of the world's leading financial firms have a footprint in Ireland. Ireland's performance as a hub for foreign direct investment is unrivaled. Indeed, Ireland attracts a much higher percentage of foreign direct investment than one might expect if you were to compare in terms of the share of our GDP of the European economy or per capita. It is about 3 to 4 times the size that one might expect. And it has been a key contributor to the recovery of the Irish economy in recent years. And you don't need me to rehearse, I suppose, what happened and how we dealt with it. But I think suffice it to say that we have a very different Ireland to what we had in the late 2000s. We has, as Dave mentioned in his introduction, had the highest growth in Europe for the past 4 years, 7.8% last year, over 5% for 4 years in a row, and a positive outlook. We are consistently now ranked in amongst the most competitive economies in the world, but I would caution that we should not rest in our laurels. The last time that we were moving up those competitiveness rankings were the early 2000s. They have very little predictive value that tell you what has happened in the past. Unemployment, obviously, is probably the most visible metric that we can view in day to day. We've seen employment increase, and we have seen unemployment fall from a height of 16% down to 5.9% in April. Public debt has peaked and continues to fall, and we're in a situation where the ranking agencies again rate Ireland as A or A+. That's important, and all of this is important because it is the backdrop against which IDA sells Ireland, and it is a very positive backdrop at the moment. Now, as you might expect, being the CEO of IDA, I am contractually required to be optimistic. Dave also told me to be optimistic. But aside from that, I sincerely believe that there are reasons and every reason to be optimistic, because I bear witness every day to Ireland's many strengths and remain convinced that we have a wonderful proposition for investors here. We partner with over 1,300 companies across various sectors who have successfully set up and expanded their operations in Ireland. In fact, since the 1950s, successive Irish governments have provided multinationals with a pro-enterprise environment which allows those companies to establish and scale quickly outside of their home markets and access a talented Irish and European workforce, and also access Irish and European innovation. And I think this is important because no one country nor no one continent has a monopoly on those things. And while some have spoken about the possibility that we won't see the same level of foreign direct investment into this country going forward, it is the very fact that those companies seek markets, they seek the talent and they seek innovation, which makes me believe we will see that foreign direct investment into the future. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit about IDA and what we do and what we've learned over the last 7 decades that we've been doing it. Firstly, by way of structure, we're a global organisation. We have 23 offices dotted across the world from Toronto to Tokyo, with over 300 staff who are working on a daily basis to achieve those specific job and investment targets that I spoke about earlier. We're probably somewhat unique in the public sector in that we model many of our business practices on the private sector and on those businesses that we serve. As a taxpayer-funded agency, we need to be extremely efficient, mainly because we have very modest resources, and allocate those resources and budgets to ensure that we continue to target the optimal mix of markets, sectors, technologies, and business models, which ultimately is for the economic and social good of this country. For my own part, I am on the road fairly regularly, in fact about 2 weeks out of every 4, east and west, and I have a chance to meet the leadership teams from current and prospective clients, and they are some of the most sophisticated companies in the world, and I get an opportunity to hear from them how they compare Ireland and how they compare the cities in Ireland against other cities in other countries. And I can absolutely reassure you we have a lot of good things going for us, whether it is our world-class talent, our track record in attracting investment, our stable political environment. It may not look stable up close, but trust me, when you look at the rest of the world, very stable relatively. Or the age profile of our citizens, where over 1/3 of the population is under 25. These are attributes that our competitors and other countries and jurisdictions envy hugely. There are a number of reasons why companies invest in Ireland, but primarily they do so because it's a great place to do business. And we have that world-class value proposition. They are drawn by the proximity to the European market, by that stable, modern, consistent and environment. The talent, the skills availability is the number one thing on investors' minds that I deal with. And the fact that Ireland is an open economy, multicultural, international, mobile, and it has that diverse workforce makes us attractive. 17% of our labour force now international. We continue to demonstrate the return on investment. Like you, the reference cell is hugely important. We show clients what others have done before. And obviously, in a post-Brexit world, access to a single European market has become relatively much more important, as has the fact that we speak English, as is the fact that we have a common law system. And from my perspective, it is ensuring that we continue to make it easy for companies to do business. That is what will keep foreign direct investment on track. We have dedicated executives in market whose primary goal is to get in front of the key decision makers. We hire sector and business experts from across the world, whether it's in pharma, biologics, technology, engineering, some of the stuff that Barry mentioned in his introduction. We have professionals who speak the client's language. One of our main challenges is to get potential investors to experience the product, to get on a plane to Ireland, because Ireland is the product. Once we do that, we design an itinerary that suits their timeline, their sector, their potential investment. Oftentimes this involves introducing them to potential clients and to introducing a potential client to existing clients and allowing them the space to discuss their investment rationale privately. As you all know, third-party endorsement is the holy grail of selling. And obviously we've moved on as well, and these days we can facilitate you with a virtual itinerary if you can't get on that plane and spare the time. From a marketing perspective, we use one-to-many events across all geographic territories. We use CRM applications, all types of print, broadcast, and especially social media campaigns to engage clients and potential clients with Ireland. Everything from LinkedIn to Twitter to Insta to Sign a Weibo. We do practically no advertising here at home, and consequently all our advertising is positioned for international eyes. We tailor our campaigns across various territories across the world to suit the message that we want to get across at any particular point in time. And that message at the moment and for the recent past has been about Ireland's absolute commitment to the European Union and European market. And that is a differentiating point relative to the UK, obviously, which has won the largest share of foreign direct investment into Europe over recent years. We target our communications as C-level executives worldwide, and as many of you will know, they are the most sought-after audience in the world. So getting their attention is tough, it's expensive, and we have to be extraordinarily clever as to how we do it. And that's why we roll out the green carpet. You build a reputation by showing a potential investor that you're serious about their business. In Ireland, our government system understands the role that they can play in giving investors faith in the product that they are investing in, and in this case, the product is Ireland. Ireland, including successive Taoiseach, ministers, government, IDA, go and meet the clients where they are. We are present at serious international business events across the globe, wherever our clients will be, whether that's in Davos or Advamed or Collision. This access and interest has set Ireland apart in the past, but our competitors are fast catching on and catching up. Once a company makes that decision to invest in Ireland, the relationship very much continues. Assistance and support is offered with any potential issues. We understand that there are highs and lows in business, and many of the clients that we have engaged with over many years have experienced those highs and lows, but IDA has been there to work with them, and they have transformed their businesses over many years. And that aftercare programme is a huge focus for us, because it is about building long-term relationships, and that's why the Microsofts and the IBMs and the Intels have decades-long relationships with Ireland. We have been very successful in the small number of sectors that we have targeted, whether that's technology in all its forms, financial services, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, engineering, and food. And of course now we see the all-pervasive impact of technology, and again Dave referred to that in the introduction. So whether it's cloud, social, mobile, data analytics, Internet of Things, AR, VR, AI, all of those things having huge impact on all of the sectors that we're dealing with, and trying to keep pace with that technology and ensure that our depth of the technology sector here continues to be an attractor is paramount. In terms of markets, we attract approximately 70% of our foreign direct investment from the US, about 20% from Europe, and 10% from the rest, or what we term growth markets. And our ambition is to grow the European and Asia-Pac element of that portfolio more quickly than the US, starting from a low base, but growing very quickly at the moment. We've reorganized our global footprint. We used to think of the market in terms of North America, Europe, growth markets. We now think of it in terms of North America, Europe, UK, and growth markets. And we have moved our European HQ, which will now be served from Dublin and Frankfurt instead of from London. We will open new offices this year in Canada, and we will also have boots on the ground in Turkey, UAE, and South Africa later this year. While FDI has performed remarkably well, the horizon obviously isn't without challenges, and those challenges are obviously to the forefront of our investors' minds. Brexit, certainly, more protectionism in the world, changes in tax policy potentially, changing global political landscape. And I note that the title of the conference is Rise Above the Noise, as Dave said in his introduction, and we saw some of the noise. Those things that I've mentioned, for the most part, they're largely the democratic wills of other peoples, which we have very little influence over. And they do create, obviously, a lot of noise. And like you, we still have to deliver on our targets, regardless of what the external environment is, and no matter how noisy that environment gets. I think there are two things that we can do in such circumstances. Firstly, you focus what's within your control, and we can certainly continually improve on our own product, regardless of what others are doing. And in our case, the product is Ireland, so ensuring that Ireland's competitiveness, whether it's costs, infrastructure, education, continue to keep pace is hugely important. And secondly, you go out and sell. And as I've said, it's a good time for selling Ireland. Geopolitical turbulence elsewhere has made Ireland very attractive. Brexit in particular has generated a huge amount of mobile investment, not just companies seeking to relocate from the UK, but also in terms of companies now looking at Europe for the first time to invest in, and who are willing to consider locations other than the UK. We have seen interest in Ireland, certainly from the financial services sector, which has generated a lot of the attention, but we've seen that bleed out into pharma, into engineering, into manufacturing, into legal services, into broadcasting, and the list goes on. While Brexit is not what we wanted, and while it potentially may and most certainly will have negative impacts on Ireland, IDEA will seek to maximise every advantage from an FDI perspective. Ireland is and will continue to be one of the most attractive destinations in the world for organisations whose natural outlook will always be global. Thank you very much for your attention this morning.